Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidharam. Okay, so as I mentioned to all of you, what we will be doing is a self-unfoldment refresher. So we're going to do self-unfoldment refresher based on your request, and let this be an interactive session. So, whatever you remember, you can also share. Okay? So for those of you who are new, we are reading off of this book, Self-Unfoldment. So please do get it if you don't have it. Self-Unfoldment is one of the first books, is actually the first book that is prescribed in the study scheme of Chinmay Mission. So either Kindle Live or we have Self-Unfoldment. And how this is this book is in 20 chapters. And I believe in our last class, we've gone up to almost 18. So we will do a few refreshers and then we will go through in detail the chapters that we have not been able to cover. Chapter 1, refresher. Chapter 1 starts with freedom, right? So we all want freedom here and now. For example, when you're wearing a mask for such a long time and you take it out, you're like, oh, finally you can breathe, right? There's that sense of freedom. When the kids who've been home for a long time, finally they get to go to their grandparents' house, you're like, oh, freedom. There's that like, wow, finally freedom, isn't it? So all of us long for this thing we call freedom. But what exactly is freedom? Freedom in Vedanta is defined as independence. Freedom means when I am independent of anything, any person, any being, any experience to make me happy. That is called freedom. So it's not being able to do what we want to do. That's not freedom. It's not being able to wake up whatever time I want to wake up, eat whatever I want to eat. No, freedom in Vedanta has a much deeper meaning. It's called independence. I'm independent of everything. Then I'm completely free. In chapter 1, we saw that this freedom, although it's independence and wanting to be able to enjoy certain things, it's built on self-restraint or intelligent restraint. So if we do want that freedom to actually live a life of independence, if we want that freedom to actually be independent of people and things, then we have to practice certain things in our life. We have to have certain values to be able to enable this independence. And in chapter 1, those values are called the art of right contact. This we remember. Art of right contact means how do I have the right relationship with the world? When we say with the world, with people, with things, with places in the world, with experiences, so that I get the most out of it, so that I grow, so that I become or slowly learn to be independent. How do I have the right relationship with something so that I grow? Because what we saw is it's not the object that disturbs us, rather our relationship with it. For example, COVID. To one person, COVID can be something so limiting. Or you can't go out of the house, you're stuck the whole day, you're just in this building, it's so limiting, you can't go to the places you want to go. It's very tough. For some people, that same COVID can be so liberating. This one person said to me, she's an elderly lady, she said, please don't tell anyone, but I'm really having a good time. She said, because nobody's coming here. My grandkids are not coming. And I'm just so happy. I can just listen to satsang the whole day long. And I said, don't worry, I won't tell anybody. To her, it was so liberating. Now, it's the same thing, but somebody sees it as so restraining and someone sees it as so liberating. What does that go to show us? It's not the object, but it's our relationship with it. So something like, I don't have my phone here on purpose, but something like a phone can be for some person very like, I just don't want to deal with it. Maybe for like me, right? I don't even want to pick it up. But for some person, it can be like, wow, I can communicate with the whole world, right? But it's not the phone. It's our relationship with it, isn't it? So the art of contact, of right contact, says step number 1. If I want to live in this world freely, if I want to grow, first step is fix the mind and not the world. Where is the problem? The problem is here. The problem is not in the person. It's not in the object. It's not in the thing. The problem is here. And this is where I have to make the switch. So that is the first thing we saw. So there's no point in blaming anybody. There's always something that you and I can fix. And that's where we have to look first. The second thing we saw in Art of Right Contact was what? Every challenge can be a blessing. Every single challenge. So however challenging the circumstance can be, it can be a blessing. But how is it a blessing? That you and I have to go through it and take it out. This COVID is a very big challenge. It can be a blessing. How? We have to reflect upon it and we have to take it out. Musicians are very good at this. Bollywood singers. Somebody will go through a heartbreak, very, very big challenge. Then they'll sing one ghazal. And this ghazal will be top 1 in the charts. How? They took that challenge and they made it a blessing. What a beautiful thing. That kind of art is something you and I have to learn. If we learn that art, then we're free. There's just something there we have to take. So that is the second thing we saw in Art of Right Contact. The third thing we saw in Art of Right Contact is simple way to be happy right here, right now. What's the simplest way to be happy right here and right now? Who remembers? Simplest way. Okay, I know, it's Purana, last year. The simplest way to be happy right here and right now is, yes, can be detachment, gratitude. Yes, definitely. Yes, Manisha said it, gratitude, right? If I'm having such a bad day, everything's going wrong, I don't know what to do. Simple, very simple. Sit 2 minutes, just think of 5 things you're grateful for, and you see how your mind will change in an instant. We don't need anything else. Even if the kids are around the house, they're like so bummed out, sit them down. Say, okay, let's just think how lucky we are. Let's just think how blessed we are. Let's just do this exercise. I'll say one thing, you say another thing. I'll say one thing, you say another thing. Don't make it like a boring thing, like write it down. No, make it like a fun game, Then they'll realize, wow, we are so lucky. So these 3 things in the first chapter form the Art of Right Contact. How do I live in this world so that I can grow and be free? Second chapter, refresher. Second chapter is very interesting. It says, we're all seeking the same thing in life. All of us are seeking the same thing. We can call it money. We can call it security. We can call it, we want to move to the suburbs so that we get more and more way to roam around. We can call it whatever we want, but what we really want is happiness. And that's the truth. We want happiness. And so In Advaita Vedanta, it says, listen, we are the source of happiness. We don't have to go looking here and there for it. We are actually the source of it. But now, to even progress on that path, to even take that path of Advaita Vedanta, to even inquire deeper, first my mind has to be a little bit stable. So therefore, it says, how to find happiness in the world. Some kind of happiness we should have so that we can seek deeper. How do we find happiness in the world? Chapter 2 points it out very clearly, says, how to find happiness in the world is see where happiness is located in the world. Where is it in the world? Where is it? And after thorough examination, we find that it's not in the object. It's definitely not in the object. Even if so many times I think it's in an object or in a person or in an experience, it's not there. Why? Because that very same person who can make you happy can make you sad. Isn't it? That very same thing that you want, which will make you so, so happy now, it's like, oh, I don't even want to deal with it. Isn't it? How maybe when we were younger, we all liked rock music or this loud, loud music. We were so happily enjoying that. But now if we hear that, I don't even want to hear it. Isn't it? That same thing that made me happy now makes me so sad. That same person who makes me so happy, the next minute makes me so sad. Which is telling me that happiness is not in the person. It's not in the thing. It's not in the place also. First my home is my happiest place. Now that I'm home 6 months, I just want to go somewhere else, isn't it? This is the feeling that we get. So where is happiness located in the world? It's located in the mind. This mind also belongs to the world. It's located in the mind. When my mind is quiet and peaceful, then I am happy. But when my mind is agitated, I am so sad. I am disturbed. So therefore, our Rishi said, we don't understand what everybody's doing. Just sit, make your mind quiet, and you will feel happiness. You don't need to run here and there and everywhere. Finally, you just want to sit and be quiet. Isn't it? Now, then it said in the second chapter, what is it that makes the mind noisy? What is it that makes the mind disturbed? What is it that makes it agitated? And what we saw, what is that thing? Desire, isn't it? It's that desire which it just comes, and it says, let's do this. And it's never ending. That process or procedure of desire is never ending. And it is in this chapter that we saw that formula, number of desires fulfilled over number of desires entertained. We measure happiness by this formula. So for example, I have 10 desires today that I entertained. 10 things on my to-do list. And I only did 4 things. Then I'm only that much happy. But if I had 10 things in my to-do list and I did all 10, then I am very happy. So we measure ourselves by this formula. How much did I entertain? How much did I fulfill? And we measure our self-worth, our esteem. We measure ourselves against this formula. But this formula is very problematic because those desires that we entertain, they're only going to keep increasing. Don't think that we're going to stop desiring. Every day we have a new desire. You see somebody else has something, I also want that. How come I don't have that? You see someone else's kid doing something, my kid should also do that. You see somebody's husband doing something, how come you don't do for me? You see someone's wife doing something, how come you don't do this? Or it increases and increases and increases and increases. So Vedanta says what we have to do is those desires have to be cut down. But then you think about it. Is it possible to live without desire? No. But should we keep entertaining every single desire that we have? The answer is also no. So what do we do? So it says that slowly we sublimate our desires. From having very selfish desires, make them more selfless. Our scriptures are so beautiful, because they come to our level. They said, look, if you want to earn a lot of money, make money. Nobody's stopping you. But also give back. Give back to a worthy cause. Make it also selfless. If I want to have a really, really huge home, fine. But open it up. Make people come. Let it be a temple. Let it be some place that people can also worship. Make use of a space. If I, have a talent for singing, sing. But also maybe help those who are less fortunate, or support, give scholarships to people who can't afford to sing, or get a teacher. So in everything I can do, what happens is I can make it more selfless. I met somebody who's very, very nice lady. She was a painter. She liked to paint. So I was saying, okay, so what's your latest project? And she said, I want to paint in hospitals because I believe that color and form and all of these things can actually help heal a patient. And I said, that's so true. She said, I want them to see these bright and wonderful things instead of just, white, like gray. So this is what she's doing. So then whatever desire we have, sublimate it. And then when that starts to happen, the mind becomes purer. The mind becomes quieter. I become a little bit more fulfilled. And I will see my life is actually happier. And when this purity starts to dawn, the desire to know the higher will come. The desire to know the self will slowly come. Now, when this desire comes, that is the most precious desire ever. That's the most important desire, and that's the highest desire. So if you and I have this desire to know the self, we are very blessed. When that desire comes, fulfill that desire, complete that desire. And once that desire is realized, all the desires go. They go. And what happens is, life is full. You don't want anything because you realize that you are that contentment. So this is how one eventually finds peace. This is the only way you'll find peace. We can read, we can Google, we can do all of it, but it boils down to this. It's tried, it's tested, it's lived. This is the way. But you yourself have to try it. So first, by becoming selfless, the mind becomes more quiet. Then by the desire for the self, the mind becomes even more quiet. Upon gaining the self, your nature is that contentment. So this much we saw in chapter 2. Moving on now to chapter 3. Chapter 3 talks about religion. Now, when we hear this term religion, we always say, I don't want to learn about religion because I want philosophy. I just want the spirituality. I'm not religious. I'm very spiritual. I don't want to do all of these religious things. Just spirituality. I just want to study that much. So here, Gurudev says, what is religion? Religion is a way to train the mind. It's a technique of gaining perfect mastery over oneself. You see, the reason is we are that self. We are the truth. There's no doubt about it. But there's 3 problems that come into play. The first problem is, I want you to think about this picture, and then you'll understand why we need religion, why we need to follow all these cultural things, all these festivals, all these prayers, why we have this whole thing. You'll understand with this example. Think of a body of water, a lake. Just think of a lake. Now, underneath that lake, let's say there is a diamond. There's a diamond underneath that lake. But there are three problems here. The first problem here is that the lake is very dirty. It's dirty. So you can't even see that there's something called diamond there. It's very dirty. Second problem with the lake is it's not still. It keeps moving. So many ripples. So even if you kind of make out something, you can't even see clearly because there's so many ripples. It keeps moving. Third problem is that, okay, the dirt is there, ripples are there, but it's not clear to you what that is. You can't even really make out what is that thing because you've never known that kind of thing. What is that thing? So first problem, it's dirty. Second thing, it's shaky. Third is that you can't even make out what that thing is because you don't know what it is. Similarly, the diamond is like the self. The diamond is like Atma. And if we are ready and prepared, this Atma, this self, we can understand in one shot. How beautiful life would be if we could understand Atma in one shot. But there's three problems. One is the mind, the water, that lake is the mind. The mind is impure. It's dirty. It's dirty. That impurity of the mind is all of this selfish desire, it's greed, it's lust, it's anger, it's all of these things which are dirt in the mind. The second is that the mind is so distracted. It cannot focus on one thing. It has what's doing one thing, and then it wants to do something else, and then it wants to do something else. It cannot focus. It cannot stay steady. And the third problem is the mind is so gross that if you say, there is something called the self. What did you say? Cell phone? Not what self, Atma. This thing is so gross. It's not even thinking. It can't even turn inward. You tell it to just be subtle, just go inward. It cannot. It's constantly being pulled down to what's happening in the world, what's happening in the news, what's happening here, what's happening there. It cannot be pulled in. As long as the mind has these three problems, forget about self-realization. It's not going to happen. Self-realization is the philosophy part, that which we all enjoy. The religion part is training this mind to be pure, to be single-pointed, and to be subtle. What we call Shuddha, called Ekagra, and Sukshma. This training of the mind happens in religion. And our religion is not actually called Hinduism. It's called Sanatana Dharma. Why they coined the name Hindu was because we were in Sindhu River, Sapta Sindhu. And they couldn't, the foreigners came, they couldn't say Sa. So they said Ha, Hindu. And that's how Hindu came. Then from that Hindu came Indus. From Indus, Indica. From Indica, India. So actually, we are Dharma is Sanatana Dharma, the eternal values. But they had given us this name, Hindu. And then one will think, but if they gave you the name Hindu, why did you keep it? Because Hindu means Hinani Gunani Dushyati iti Hindu. The one who destroys all the lower tendencies in himself or herself is called Hindu. That's what it is. So what we see as Hinduism today is this practice of training the mind to be these three things: to be pure, to be single-pointed, and to be subtle. How so? Crux of the practice of Hinduism is selfless service towards a higher ideal. That's one crux. In that, one gains purity because that selfish desire is overcome. So that is one crux, and you will see wherever we go in any, so many different organizations are there, but one of the pinnacles of it is selfless service or seva. That is one way. that our religion teaches us. The second thing is worshiping God in a form. Now, many people will question this. Oh, why worship God in a form? God is formless. Very good. You worship the formless God. Can you do it? No, we can't. That's why we have these forms. That's why our children are being surrounded with such beautiful forms to teach them the art of concentration. You take up one form, you let it be your Ishta Devata, that Devata who's dear to you, and you practice focusing on your form. And with this way, the mind learns to be single-pointed. All those practices of bhajan, prayer, chanting, this festival, that festival, all of it is only saying, be single-pointed. Bring your mind here. Bring your mind here. Bring your mind here. That is the purpose of religion. The next is, now the mind, being pure, being single-pointed, has to be made subtle. So you will see one of the tenets of our religion is satsanga, to be in communion with people who are in sat, in the path of truth, because it makes us think deeper. When we go out, when we go out into this world, our conversations are so different. What did you eat for dinner? What did you eat for lunch? What kind of pasta should I buy? What kind of Netflix show should I? It's very, very different. And this is the way Vyavahara is. But when we come to Satsanga, the mind is trained to focus on something subtler, focus on something deeper. And so this becomes a tenet of our religion. So that's why religion is there. Religion is a ladder to spirituality. So when we embrace these practices, and I'm not saying you do every single practice, no. I'm saying you do what speaks to you. When we embrace these practices, they train our minds very well. And when this trained mind comes to the philosophy, this trained mind will get it. But when an untrained mind comes to philosophy, that untrained mind will not get it. No matter how much you try, it won't get it. And that's the truth of it. So that is the crux of chapter 3. Clear so far? Okay. I will do one more chapter, refresher, then I will ask questions if any of you have questions, because I know the overload, so many things are happening. But these are things already we've seen. I'm just presenting them a different way. Because I also feel bored if I talk the same thing all the time. I have to also entertain myself and present it a different way. Chapter 4 is on choices. So if we look at chapter 4 of your book, it's called balance, but balance is really the right way to make choices. How is this connected? When we come to religion, we learn how to make the right choices. Our religion teaches us this thing called dharma. Our religion teaches us what is dharma, and dharma is that choice which we have to make. And that dharma is the same as shreyas. So I'll explain. In life, our choices make us. Just think. One choice you made, how much it would have changed your life. I'm sure you can all think of one choice you made, how it drastically changed your life. Like that, many of our choices mold our lives. So when we live life daily, it's important to know what to choose and how to choose it. What is the premise of choosing something? What is the premise of saying this is the path I should take? This is something I should engage in. This is something I shouldn't engage in. What is the premise of that? So the first will always be dharma. Whatever is my given duty, whatever is my given responsibility, that I must choose. That's the first thing I must always choose. And dharma is tricky because sometimes I might not like it. But the beauty of dharma is we do what's right even if we don't like it. Because the point is not to like it. The point is to go into the right path, to evolve. So the first choice that we must always make is that of dharma. This dharma is such an elaborate topic, and I've elaborated on it before also. So I won't go into that tangent. But if you want to know more about how to know what dharma is, you please watch the Insights to Mahabharata, the first one. Then you will get an idea. And as you know, I always tell all of our children, right thing, right place, right time. That is called dharma. Now the problem comes when there's two things that they both look like dharma. They both look like, they're both dharmic. Either the mind is playing tricks or either we're not seeing it clearly. But these two things that come to us, one is going to be what we call prayas, one is what we call shreyas. Prayas is the path of the pleasant. Shreyas is the path of the good. How do we distinguish them? Whenever we have to make a choice, I would say the first thing that is your choice maker or choice breakers, is it going to help me evolve? Is it going to help me grow spiritually? Because in life, that's the goal. Why sometimes we don't know what choice to make is because we've lost sight of the goal. That's the first thing. So first is, what is the goal of life? Because according to the goal will be the choice. So the goal of our lives is to realize the self. That is the goal. And so therefore, when this is my goal, then my choices should be directed towards that goal. That is a very simple and easy way to make a choice. That which takes me towards my goal is called shreyas. That which takes me away from my goal is called prayas. So that's something that I have to be clear about. Now, this formula I've given you, and you already know it, so I will just touch upon it. What is this shreyas? Shreyas, I've given you this formula, smile. How do I know if I'm making the right decision? It makes me smile. Smile means what? S means shreyas. It is good, means when I look at my life and I look at what good people have done, how they have thought, how they have decided, this is in line with that thinking. We must look upon our masters, our role models. How did they also think? How did they go through this? Was it in line with their thinking? Was it shreyas? Was it shreyas for other people as well? Shreyas, S. Then we think M means, is it benefiting most people? That's very important. Because many times we like to be selective and we like to do what we want to do. I'm doing this because I just feel like doing it. But what about everybody else? We have to think what is beneficial to most people here, and that's what we take up. If I lose this sight of thinking, that means it's prayers. I means it is guided by my intellect. I've thought clearly about it. It's not guided by my instinct or my impulse. I just got that impulse. I just want to do it like that. No, I thought about it. I actually thought about it. I listed things down. I actually wrote it down. And that's why I've decided to do it this way. And L is, I'm thinking long term. Very often we sacrifice things for short-term pleasure. Just because we want short-term pleasure, we do something, but we're not thinking about long-term. Long-term, what? Just because you're tempted to do something now and you do it, long-term, what kind of damage will it do? Point is, we didn't think. And E, as I said, the crux is it going to help me evolve towards my goal? When I have understood how to make this decision, when I've understood all these elements, that is what you call shreyas. That is what you call shreyas in That is how to choose. So if I want to know how to choose, how to make a decision in life, first I must know my goal. Second point, I must choose dharma. Even if sometimes I don't want to do it, I don't like to do it, I choose dharma. And third point is choose that which is Shreyas. Now the problem with us is we choose Shreyas. We, in our minds, we think Shreyas, but we end up choosing Preyas. Huh? So, for example, in the night, I'm setting my alarm clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, I will get up. I will get up 5 o'clock. I want to do something Shreyas. Or Gayatri Japa. Those of you who are doing Gayatri Japa, we're doing on Sunday at 6:30 in the morning. So I want to get up for Gayatri Japa and take a shower before we do Gayatri Japa. So I will get up at 5:30 so I can take my time, because sometimes you all will like some coffee, tea, whatever. 5:30 in the morning, the alarm clock rings. What happens? You thought Shreyas at night, but when we wake up, Preyas. This is what happened. So there, slowly, the only thing we can do is practice. And why this suppression and sublimation is brought out in this chapter is a very beautiful point, is that when our goal is high, when we have a high goal, automatically we will want to do Shreyas. Automatically it will come. But when we do not have a high goal, it is like suppression only. It is like, I want to do it, but I can't. I want to do it, but I can't. All this means, this indiscipline that's happening in our life, this indiscipline that I'm not able to do it, even if I want to do it, even if I'm thinking it, it happens only because of one reason. And that one reason is the goal is not high enough. Point blank, the goal is not high enough. If the goal is very high and I'm very committed to it, there is no room for indiscipline. Do you think, I brought this example to you before, but do you think Mahatma Gandhi ji, when he was fighting for the freedom of the nation, do you think he was like, oops, I have to make sure I wake up at 5 a.m. Oops, I have to make sure I don't overeat. Oops, I have to make sure I don't. No, it's not there in his mind, because in his mind is the freedom of the entire country. There is no room for indiscipline. If there is room for indiscipline in my life, it means my goal just isn't high enough. It's not. And it means I'm not committed to my goal. But if my goal is very high and I'm very committed, I cannot risk indiscipline. I can't have it happen. And this is a beautiful thing. So sometimes we feel like we overcommit, we don't want to overcommit. You just try it. I'm not saying overcommit. I'm saying grow to that level, expand to that level where we can give more. Why we cannot give more is because we're indisciplined. And I'm telling you this because I also saw this in my own life, in the sense that, like, I was like, oh, too much, but really it's not too much. It's like I had to discipline myself more so that I could give more. It's the same amount of thing. It's not more or less. It's just that I had to discipline more. And when I discipline myself more, I can give so much more. And so that is my dharma. My dharma is discipline. Because if I can discipline, I can give more. So that is what it is. So in this way, we have recapped chapters 1 to 4 in a nutshell.